First of all, Gary, I'm sorry about one starring your videos. I've done that twice, and only on your last two videos, because I think you're misconstruing the facts, and so I just don't approve of that, and I one-starred them. Um, that's how I feel. I'm sorry, and it's unfortunate that you're blocking people just because they agree with my position. I mean, if you want to discuss these ideas, then let's discuss them. We don't need to be throwing all these, names around and personal attacks. I mean, it's just pointless. What are you here for, if not to constructively discuss ideas? Are you just here to vent your anger? I mean, maybe you are. Okay. Um, but anyways, let's read what Darwin had to say. From the introduction to the origin of species, the last line of the introduction, Darwin said, I am fully convinced that species are not immutable. So am I. And so is any reasonable person who pays the slightest bit of attention to science. Um, the only ones that disagree are the creationists, which, I'll attack their claims to being scientific as quickly as you will, Gary. I am fully convinced that species are not immutable, but that those belonging to what are called the same genera are lineal descendants of some other and generally extinct species in the same manner as the acknowledged varieties of any one species are the descendants of that species. Furthermore, I am convinced that natural selection has been the main but not exclusive means of modification. So unlike many of the more radical neo-Darwinians, Darwin does not think natural selection is the sole mechanism. He says, granted that he believes it's the main means, but science has changed, and I take the position, though it's still controversial. I'm not trying to say that it isn't. I take the position that natural selection is not the main mechanism operating in evolution. Darwin also left the door open for some kind of Lamarckism, actually. On page 20, he said, some slight amount of change may, I think, be attributed to the direct action of the conditions of life, as in some cases increased size from the amount of food and perhaps the thickness of fur from climate. Darwin called this the effect of use, and it's a Lamarckian idea, though epigenetics is at least questioning whether or not Lamarck was entirely wrong about this inherited characteristics idea. And you're also definitely misconstruing what I said to Wukdar. I'm going to read what I really said, and people can decide for themselves whether or not yours was a fair characterization. Wukdar said, basically you're saying that if I go to live on the North Pole, my child will be affected by it, and he will be an Inuit in just one generation. And I said, well, basically, yeah. Maybe that specific example isn't true, but the idea, the general idea, is correct. A good example of epigenetic influence would be, and this has been demonstrated in a laboratory with mice, that a change in one generation's diet leads to a change in the next generation's phenotype, with possible adaptive advantages. And this all takes place without altering the DNA code itself. This is still open for scientific debate. We don't have laboratory examples of this occurring, but it seems reasonable to assume that it occurs in nature if we know that there are these heritable epigenetic traits, such as the change in fur color because of the prior generation's diet. And we know that we've proven that this epigenetic influence and inheritance can last up to 4 generations. So this is just a new door that's opening. And I do not think it's unreasonable to assume that epigenetic influences and inheritances can be or provide adaptive advantages to those organisms which exhibit them. It's definitely speculation, it's hypotheses, a hypothesis, but it's not contradicting anything we know scientifically about how evolution works. So yeah, that's it. Just had to clear up some things that I don't think you fairly described about my position. So take it easy.